afternoon, and welcome to 13 Days of Silence. I'm your host, Terry Lynn, where we preserve the stories behind the moments that forever change our lives. Today's episode is one I'm truly honored to share. Joining me is Nicole, who has graciously agreed to tell us about her dad, Claude. Before we talk about any of those days of Nicole's life, first we want to hear a little bit about Nicole and about Claude. So I'm going to open it up to Nicole, and we're going to learn about Claude. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, so I'm Nicole. I live over here in Greeley, Colorado. Originally, I grew up in Michigan, and my parents moved us around a little bit. So I lived in Michigan, lived in South Dakota for a time, Minnesota, Colorado, kind of lived in a few different places. I have a partner. I have triplet boys that are 3.5 years old that keep me on my toes every day, every second. I love them to death.
Nice to meet you. How about, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your dad?
Yeah, so my dad was named Claude Gerard Forget. He was born in Michigan, lived in Michigan. His dad came from Quebec, so he's French Canadian, and his mom was Armenian. He loved the outdoors. He spent a lot of time outdoors, fishing, just playing around in the woods. He played hockey. He was very good at hockey.
That's awesome.
He played saxophone in high school. He was first chair. He won a lot of state competitions. Growing up, we were outside a lot on the pond playing hockey. We were outside in the backyard playing baseball and just doing all that kind of stuff.
I think that's all the
He was
stuff that I think we as parents, my kids now, and you as you growing up, you're gonna wish that your kids get to do more. I think that electronics takes a lot of that away, and those are really great memories to have about your
Oh,
dad.
for sure. I honestly think back on when I was a child and how my parents raised me, and we were just wild outside all the time, and they had no idea where we were. And now, if my boys go downstairs in the basement, I'm like, okay, what are they doing? What are they getting into? Are they going to get hurt? So it's
I
a
know,
lot
and I
different.
want to feel like I'm not a helicopter mom, but it's the same way. But outside of the house is just different now. It's not like it was 20, 30 years ago. So it does
Yeah,
make.
yes, that's true.
So if you could tell me a couple of your favorite memories about Claude that come to mind.
Well, I would say he was a child at heart. He was always working. He worked a lot and he always had jobs that weren't the best paying. So we grew up pretty poor. But when he was home, he loved holidays a lot. For Christmas as a child, I can remember him calling Santa on the phone and talking to him and telling him what we wanted and making sure we were being good so that he would show up. And Halloween, he loved Halloween. He would take us out every year. And when we were little, before we could really go out and about, we would run around the house and we would knock on the door, and my mom would hand us candy. My dad would be hiding behind the shed, and he would pop out right as we got there and rev his chainsaw. And every time we would scream, even though we knew he was going to be there.
If we walked into a room and met your dad for the first time, what do you think is something that someone would notice about him?
Oh, all the questions. He loved talking to people because he worked so much, and from when I was in middle school onward, he was a truck driver, so he spent a lot of time alone on the road. So he loved talking to people. He loved getting to know people. He would ask you a question and he would sit there and listen. He would look at you, he would listen, he would ask follow-up questions. He was actually interested in who you were as a person and getting to know you. And his questions were just, I can't think of any specifically, but he just loved getting to know people.
He would be engaged. It wasn't superficial.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So one other thing that I went over with in some of your pre-stuff was the show Bonanza. That sounded like it was something that your dad enjoyed.
Oh yeah, he loved westerns. He had every Clint Eastwood movie, and we would watch Bonanza every week, and we would get on the side of the couch and we would ride it like a horse during the theme song. And yeah, he loved westerns. He loved old gangster movies. Um, he loved like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in their early years. He had a lot of good stuff. He loved music. He had a lot of records. He had a big music collection because he used to play the saxophone, so he was very into jazz, um, R&B. He liked a lot of different kinds of music.
That sounds
And he,
so for me, you've painted like a really like not knowing him, just the picture is someone the music you said so played an instrument, was an arborist at heart, loved
mhm,
westerns, made sure you guys played a bunch when you said he was a kid at heart, riding the, playing pretending it was a horse and then being outside. I've never met anybody whose parents were thoughtful enough to play trick or treat inside. Like that's actually pretty awesome.
yeah, because he worked a lot when he was with us when we were little, he really took the time to do that.
Right. I think for a lot of dads, I think that's something that you don't appreciate till you get older and you can see that it's not that they weren't there, it's that they couldn't be, and that it's what they did with the time that they had with you that really was important. Yeah.
Correct. I completely agree. Yep.
So, well, sounds like Claude was a pretty fantastic guy. And for what it's worth, I don't think I know very many Claudes.
Yes, it's a name that, yeah, you don't hear very often, except now everyone uses Claude AI. So if I ever
Oh,
use AI, I have to say that I go towards Claude just
that's
because of the name.
that's interesting. See, we all have our thing. So,
Yep.
well, that's great. That sounds like a really good story. So we're gonna move into kind of what got us here. Can you take us back to before the event happened, which of course we haven't alluded to, but just growing up and seeing your dad and maybe how things got a little difficult. Do you have any perspective on that?
I think as a child, you really don't pay attention or see things back as an adult and maybe notice.
Hmm.
Um, I really don't notice my dad being depressive, although my mother said that he was depressive ever since they were married.
Hmm.
Um, quiet, and he would be outside tinkering on his vehicles a lot because we had old vehicles because we were poor. So he was always outside fixing them up, or when my parents would fight, he would go outside a lot and just
Hmm.
spend hours out there.
Yeah.
Um, he liked to take long walks, and I think that's because of his thinking and his thought process. Maybe things bothered him, so he would take long walks and walk for hours.
Hmm.
Um, I guess as a child, I don't remember him being depressed.
We're not perfect at all the time,
Yes.
right? So that sounds, I
Yes.
mean, sounds like a pretty normal childhood to me. So,
Yes. Yeah.
so do you want to go ahead and bring us into what happened with your dad and kind of give us the story?
Yeah. So, um, in 2014, it was August 18th, I believe, 2014. Um, I remember this. It was early Monday morning. I was sleeping in bed. My mom called me. I didn't answer. She left me a voicemail. I think it said something about, Nicole, call me back. Something happened to your father. So I called her back, and then she had told me that he passed and how he passed. She told me that he had committed suicide. And I know we're not supposed to say committed suicide. It's hard not to say that
Right.
because you have to be PC these days and say died by suicide. I mean, he did do that. He did choose to do. Sometime the late Sunday evening or early Monday, he went for a long walk and went to his favorite park, and he had a gun, and he decided that was the night that he just did not want to be on the earth anymore.
Hmm.
And the next morning, unfortunately, a random passer buyer who was walking his dog found the cops. And then the cops came and told my mom, and then she called all of us kids and let us know what happened. And I ended up driving. She told me Monday morning, and I was there by Tuesday. Unfortunately, she had already begun the process of cremation, so I did not get to see his body to physically
Oh,
say goodbye. And
yeah,
that's a point of contention still to this day with me and one of my sisters. But
right.
yes, it is unfortunate because it's really hard when you don't see someone for years and then all of a sudden they're gone and you're like, okay, well, are they really gone? Because I haven't seen them for a while. So this is kind of like, okay, where is he? I don't know.
So for you, it was the physical absence of him had been there a while, but now all of a sudden you just have to process that it's gone.
Yes, because I had not seen him for probably 3 or 4 years before that because I was in my 20s, so I was just living life, and this happened when I was 29.
Right,
And and he was living his life and working, and we didn't make the time to see each other in the last 3 to 4 years before he did that.
right,
So unfortunately, yeah, it was just like, I was used to him being there.
right. Well, when you say that because you didn't get to see and your mom had made that decision, do you know at this point, was she trying to hurry it up for her own self? Because it seemed like it happened pretty fast.
Yes, I think she told me later on that she just wanted it to be done. I
Mhm.
don't know if it was just so hard for her to handle that she just wanted it to be done as fast. Maybe she thought it was better that we not see him. Um, Although she did take a picture and then she sent me the picture, so I was
I'm
I was
sorry,
like,
I'm not,
well,
I don't mean to laugh, but I was just like, that's such an odd,
yes.
yeah,
Yes, I was. So I'm like, okay, well, I would have rather seen him in person, but I guess I can see that he is not there anymore.
right.
Um, and I felt really bad for a long time because that Sunday I thought about calling him. I'm like, oh man, I got the feeling I was like, I should really call him and check in. And one of my sisters also got that same feeling, but neither of us called him that day.
It's interesting that you say that because I've done a few interviews now, and you're not the first one to say that when something happens, there's a shift. Whatever you
Hmm.
call it, intuition or whatever's happening in hindsight or whatever it is, everybody, I would say 98% of everybody I talked to say there was a moment where they noticed something, but they didn't know what they were noticing, if that makes
Hmm.
sense, until
Yeah,
afterwards. Yeah.
yeah. That next time I get a feeling where I need to reach out, I'm going to reach out.
Right. And so those are those little things that, make us changes who you are at a core level because that's something that you may not have thought about before, but now it'll always be part of who you are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you went up to North Dakota and had everything. So had the family, all of the family not seen each other, and now everybody come together for this?
Well, I guess I should backtrack a little bit because we were already kind of split as a family because maybe 3 or 4 years prior to him passing, my parents got a divorce.
Okay.
And then they decided a, a year before he did that to get remarried. So there was already a split where two of us were kind of like more, on my mom's side, and two people were more on my dad's side, or,
Right.
they kind of understood their how than the other one.
Right.
So there's
Well,
already a split. And my mom, two of my siblings don't really have a great relationship with my mom at that point. So I went
so
up there and I spent a week with her because I was the closest to her
I see.
at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when things like that happen and you're taking care of your mom, you almost can't process what's going on because you don't have room for it because you're already now taking on this other person who's going through something.
Oh, that is the truth. I cried. I got there. I was just, I flipped, and it was just all about my mom and
Right.
just making sure she was okay and like hearing everything she had to say about it.
Right.
And then it wasn't until maybe a week later that I completely blew up.
Right. And that's just when everything came together, when you thought about not being able to say goodbye the way you would like to, and then just other stuff coming around. And then I'm sure there was a celebration of life at some point where people got together.
Yes, yeah, it was blowing up because you finally take it in and realize he's gone and how it happened and why it happened, and feel like what he must have felt, and then, family dynamics and the fracture in the family and people's opinions on things. It was,
Yeah.
yes, and unfortunately, my mom chose to have his memorial service like a month and a half later, which
Mm,
I don't like because I want to just, that was my first real, I had lost grandparents and such, but my dad was my first like real, I love this person.
right.
And I didn't want to like make that grief like prolong. Like I wanted to feel it now and move on, not have
Right.
to deal with it for a month and a half later.
And that's an interesting dynamic because your mom chose to have him cremated so fast, but then to linger to put the period behind it for so long. Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yep.
interesting.
And yeah, and since his family was in Michigan, we ended up taking his ashes to Michigan and having it there so that his sisters and his mom could go and some other family members.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing the priorities that come into play when you're making these decisions, it just, we're trying to accommodate everyone when ultimately every person wants to, grieve in their own way.
Yep, and that's yeah, that is something that I've understood from that that everyone grieves differently and how you feel isn't going to be how anyone else feels. And especially with the bench when that was made, like I needed that. I needed a physical space. Now, did some of my siblings? No, but two of us needed it, two of us didn't, and that's okay. And now it's there for when I need to go up there and feel close to him.
Right. So that kind of brings us to the whole point of us having a conversation or any of these conversations is that we can hindsight and think about all the stuff that happened before, and then we can think about the moment that everything changed. And for the most part, that's where all the, for lack of a better word, attention comes from, where people check in on you, make sure you're doing okay. But eventually all of that wears out and you're still sitting there with all of the grief. And you're probably more alone at this point than you were before. So then you have to decide, not personally, but the person has to decide how they go about living after the fact, living after everybody goes home, after the phone calls stop, after you have to go back to work. That's just stuff that's not talked about enough. And it's not easy. Survival mode isn't something you consciously do. It's just something you live in until things get back to normal. And sometimes they never do.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
would say after an event like that, losing your dad that traumatically, yeah, things just have never gone back to normal with the family or with with how I look at things. My
mhm.
just yeah, everything changed after that.
So tell me about the bench that you did. It's a memorial bench, I'm assuming.
Yes, since I felt like I needed a physical place to be able to go and spend time with him. I know, once they're gone, they're just out there in the atmosphere, the universe, floating around somewhere, I hope.
Yes.
But I was like, I don't know if he's here in Colorado, so I need to go up to North Dakota. Um, so I was like, okay, well, he doesn't have anything with his name on it or anything to show that he was here or, that he even existed.
Right.
So I got the idea. I was like, he loved that park. He loved being outdoors. Let's build a bench. So I messaged my siblings and told them I wanted to create a GoFundMe, and I got them involved and we raised money from friends and family. And it wasn't really even that much, like $2,500. And
Mhm.
I contacted the Bismarck, North Dakota Parks and Rec, and they said, yep, just, tell us what bench you want. You can tell us where you want it. They were extremely accommodating, I think, because they knew what happened. So
Right.
they felt for me.
Right.
Um, and then we created the plaque for my dad, and it has his name on it, and it has a little saying. He passed in 2014, and then by the summer of 2015, we had it built, and me and my siblings all met up there, North Dakota, to go
Mhm.
see it for the first time together because we all live in different places.
Right. I think that, and just thinking about things from a business point of view, nowadays, mental health is really important and it's at the forefront of everything that's going on in society right now. And I think that if I pass by a bench and seeing that I think it just makes you stop and realize it's that cliche that you don't know what people have going on. So just give everybody a little bit of slack. I think it's an important message to give to people. I don't think it has to be about ultimately Claude's ending, but just about how everybody's going through their own stuff, and
Hmm.
I think it's a really good memorial to have out there. Yeah, I don't, when I see something like that, I don't think of the end. I think of you're trying to carry on a message of like, people have their own stuff and here we are.
Yeah, and whenever I see a bench with someone's name, I always sit and I look at it and I think, I wonder what they were like. I wonder who they were. And
Yep.
I want to know their whole story. And it makes me really interested.
Yep. I think that's true too. And what you'd said about how once your dad passed or somebody passes, whatever's left, that legacy, I don't think when we're in the moment or living on the planet, you don't think about the legacy. But then when you're gone and the people, all they have left is the few, if you don't have any possessions or nothing really happened, it's, even like you think about your triplets there, if they about their grandpa, there's just not a lot there. So at least now, like with this podcast, his name will always be there, right? So they can at least know their grandpa's story
Mhm.
and try to find something out because I don't think it's important until someone's gone, and that's too bad.
2014, mental health wasn't what it is right now. I remember a month before my dad, Robin Williams did
Yep.
the same thing. And I'm thinking, what? Robin Williams? I loved him so much. I was like, why? How did that happen? And then my dad, and then that's when I feel like it really started, people started talking about it more and it became brought
Yeah,
out
more
into
on the
the light.
forefront. No, I
Yeah.
agree with you. I think you're right. I think that oddly enough, I do think Robin Williams doing that, it made people think, how can you be the guy that laughs all the time and then be so, torn up on the inside? So I think that we
Hmm.
have in society, I think we've come a long ways. I think that at least now, if you say that you're having some problems, people don't just have a negative thought about you. They're like, oh, well, then you definitely need to take care of that. So.
Hmm.
So you had said that you found out, you feel like you learned more about your dad after he passed than when he was alive. Do you have anything specifically that kind of was brought to light for you?
Um, yeah, like I never knew he was in the Navy.
Oh, wow.
He had graduated high school and he went on a road trip and then I found out like he went on a cross country road trip to California and Michigan
Wow.
and then he joined the Navy and then he hated it. So then he went AWOL from the Navy and
That
this was
is
in Chicago.
so good.
So I never knew and then he ended up, in the jail, their jail because he tried to escape because he hated it so much. And I never knew that.
Oh my
And
gosh, that's quite the story. And it almost goes with what you told me in the beginning because the arborist and the jazz and the being a tinkerer on things, that's more of a free spirit person, not someone that wants to be told how to make their bed and tie their shoes.
yes, and I'm not sure why he even did it. Maybe he didn't know what to do after high school, like almost everyone. You don't really know what path to take. So he just chose that and then it, kind of bit
I
him in the butt.
I also feel like you say that happened in Chicago. He might have had this life of being a maritime guy, going to be out and see the
Yeah.
world. And now they stick him in Chicago. That might have had something to do with it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I mean just like once that happened, I think I opened my eyes to probably my life as a child, and I saw things that my siblings saw that maybe I ignored, or my parents' relationship and how dysfunctional it actually was.
Mhm.
And um, and then just I think more I learned a lot of things about my dad, but then a lot of things about my parents that opened my eyes to maybe they shouldn't have been together and they both would have been far happier with other people who had similar personalities and interests. And it was
Yeah.
just a shame that they had to spend their lives together. And my mom, to this day, she cannot talk about my dad without it being negative because I think
Really?
she's still holding on to
Ah,
something.
that's unfortunate because it just sounds like she has some resentments that if she could get him out of her head and just be happier. because you don't want
Yeah,
that for someone. There's just obviously something negative festering there. And that's obviously her thing there. But for you, I would assume that it would be nice to have a conversation with your mom about when your dad made you laugh and all those great memories.
yeah, it definitely would. Uh, it makes me sad that sometimes I feel like death really tears a lot of families apart when
Hmm.
someone dies.
Yeah.
I've seen that with family and with people not having wills set up and then people's differences of opinion. And it makes me fear my own death and that my boys will end up hating each other when I want them to like each other and keep tabs with each other when they get older and don't have to be together anymore.
Yeah, but you are living just with the experience that you had. You're going to portray and give off that aura, even if you don't say it, your boys will feel it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we learn from our parents' mistakes. I'd like to hope so. I think I learned from, I have older kids in their 30s and then kids that are 14 and 10, and I parent completely different now because I
Yeah.
learned so much. Do you know what I mean? And so I think
Yeah.
that'll probably go. And, I think you learn what you don't want sometimes, and you're able to pass that on to your kids too. Hmm.
And you can't blame anyone for someone else's actions for
Right.
the most part. But I feel like if you do know someone is struggling and they've had a history, there should be at some point where you at least once, force them to go get help. Okay, if it's to the point where they're going to take their own life. And my mom said that she knew that he was catatonic for like 2 or 3 days before he did this.
Oh, just
So if
tapping.
yeah, so if he's acting like that and you think this is going to happen and you don't do anything, it's it was extremely frustrating. I still get upset sometimes when I think about it because if that were me, I've had a partner that had mental health issues and I did force him to go to the hospital. Now, will people say that's the right thing to do? It's a matter of opinion,
Right.
but I would rather be safe than sorry after experiencing what happened to my dad.
Right. You'd rather someone be retro mad at you for something, but something happened in that moment to where at least they can at least be mad at you. You have that option
Yes.
instead of,
Yes.
instead of something else. And I can understand why you feel that way, because if your mom has the ability to say there was something wrong with your dad, but then didn't do anything about it, that's pretty frustrating to hear that because devastating to actually hear.
Yes, it is devastating. And at the time, with our emotions so high, we were pretty upset at the time. And then we all asked for a copy of the police report because we wanted to know what the police had to say about it.
Hmm.
And frustrating because she basically told them where they could find him. And I said,
Oh,
if you really knew that he was that bad off and you knew where he might go to do it, then you really should have stopped him.
yeah,
And
yeah. When you say that, that makes just on the psychology side of it that I've learned, it almost makes sense why she's still angry because she's mad that it happened. Like she's mad that she didn't do the right thing. So I think it's displaced anger. So if she can still stay mad at Claude, then she doesn't have to look back on herself on maybe what she could have done better. That's my opinion only, but that's kind of what I've seen.
yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that. And I believe forgiveness is for yourself and not necessarily the person who you believe did something
Right.
to wrong you or did something that hurt you. So I've moved past it and I try to have a relationship with her now for my boys so that they have a grandparent on
Right.
my side of the family. But yes, that I think she is still mad at the fact because she knows the truth is she could have done something and she chose not to.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can see that. That's almost self-preservation at that point. If that's the way if you're not gonna work on it, you gotta do something to function. So if you, what do you tell your boys about their grandpa?
Um, there are things whenever one of them does something that reminds me of him or when they were born, I will say, I had triplets and it was just spontaneous. I couldn't have kids for a long time and I had multiple miscarriages. So I
Mhm.
thought I was just never going to have kids. And I always wanted to be a mom.
Mhm.
So I actually gave up. And then months later, I end up with spontaneous triplet pregnancy.
Wow.
And when they came out, they were 32 weeks, so they were premature.
Mhm.
And I swear one of them looked just like my dad. And he was there like, I was like, that, you are just look like an old version of my dad.
I think
And
there's probably some truth to that, you know.
yeah, comforting to see. And then when one of them does something that's like him, or like one of their ears, they go out. So that reminds me of him. And I bought them hockey sticks for Christmas, and one of them is a natural with hitting the ball around on the floor. So I'm like, oh, I hope he'll play hockey and like it and have something in common with his grandpa.
I think that's awesome. I think those are, yeah, you never know how DNA is going to show up. And in my own life, some of the things that I see passed down, you just kind of got to shake your head and be like, well, I appreciate it because I needed to see it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It makes me feel it just makes me feel good. It makes me feel peaceful inside when I see that. I
So
still have a part of him in my boys.
it does. And so you say you may not talk to your boys a bunch about your dad, but you are trying to do something to improve. You're trying to turn grief into purpose. Can you give us a little insight on that?
Yeah. So in 2024 it had been 10 years since my dad passed. And when I created that bench, I always thought afterwards, I was like, wouldn't it be nice if I could help families create some memorials for people or loved ones they had lost to suicide, or if they don't have money to create it, or
Mhm.
they want a physical space to go to, because so many people are cremated these days.
Right,
And suicide's so tragic, you usually don't get to say goodbye to the person.
right.
So I was like, boy, I would love to do that. If I ever win the lottery, I'm going to start a nonprofit and
Yeah.
I'm going to create these memorials. And so, 10 years later, I was just sitting at home with my boys. Every day is like Groundhog's Day. I was like, I need something to focus on besides them. So I was like, you know what? I may never have money. Let me just create this nonprofit. So I
Mhm.
went online. I legally created it in 2024 for the 10-year anniversary. The next year, 2025, I got the 501c3 tax exempt status.
Mhm.
And late 2025 and then early this year, I've gotten a couple grants and I've raised almost like $5,500.
Mhm.
So I'm going to build this nonprofit for my dad, where I'm going to build memorials for people who have lost family members and loved ones to suicide. And after becoming a mother, I realized you always know kids are the future.
Right.
Our youth are our future. So we need to teach them well and help them be mentally resilient and strong and functional. And
Right.
so I was like, we also need to create a youth program. So we're going to do memorials and we're going to have a youth social engagement program where there's a lot of clinical options out there. And I don't have any medical background and I don't intend to. So this is just going to be a social thing because a lot of the kids these days are very socially cut off, even more since 2020.
Right.
And so we're just going to get kids out from their bedrooms, off of their phones. If they've lost someone or if they're experiencing mental health issues, we're going to help them get into a hobby that they like, something they're interested in. Is going to be very specific to the kid and whatever interests them. Like if they are into sports, we're going to pay for all the sports fees and their
Try to get those little
equipment. If
obstacles out of the way. Like if a few
Oh,
hundred
for
bucks is the
sure.
obstacle, which sometimes a few hundred bucks is everything to a family. So if you can overcome that
Oh
for
yeah.
someone, it would definitely be life changing.
Yeah, yeah, anything they're interested in, yes. And if they don't have that money, horseback riding. If they really like forged in fire, go
Mhm.
learn how to make a sword.
Yep.
We're just going to find whatever they're interested in and get excited and realize, life has a purpose. There's more out there. Keep them engaged with their friends, their family, mentors, um, hopefully build mentally strong kids. And after having three boys, most suicides, 75 to 80% are men. And I have three boys. Mental health issues run in the family. They're just rampant right now in the world we live in. And I want them to grow up not ever thinking that that's an option they have. I want them to feel like they're connected to us. They have a good relationship with their parents. I want them to make sure that they have some friends, they have interests, they can get over hard things that happen in life and feel it and move through it.
Can you tell us about the license plates?
Yeah, so being a new nonprofit, it's very hard to raise funds because most funders or people that give grants, they're not going to give to you because you haven't run a program. You haven't shown that you can be trustworthy. So Colorado is amazing with all the license plates. And I started paying attention to them a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh, all these license plates. Who are these license plates made for? Like,
Right.
what are they? So I looked into it, and they're created by nonprofits and state agencies. That's the only people that can create the license plates are nonprofits and state agencies. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, what would be a great way for us to raise money to be able to start our programs and build the community trust and show that we can do something positive? We can create a license plate. We can get the community to back us and to purchase one and to donate a little bit to our nonprofit and have this plate on their vehicle, raise awareness, build our funds, be able to run our programs, to be able to actually then apply for grants.
That's the things that you don't think about. If you're like me, if you see someone out there that's put the hustle in to get this created and says, do you want to donate to this? When you're already paying for your license plate, that's a simple checkbox to do and to give a little to someone.
Yeah, I was so surprised when I started sending this out there. I was like, how am I going to get so many people to sign this? I had looked into it. I turned in the paperwork to the state. They asked for like 7 or 8 forms and proof that you had tax exempt status.
Right.
And then they looked over everything, said, okay, they gave me the green light to collect signatures. They said, you need 3,000 signatures, but we suggest that you get a few hundred more because people are going to want to sign, but they need to be registered vehicle owners because
Mm,
this is the license plate and we want to know that people are actually going to want to buy it if we're going to create it.
makes sense.
Yep. So I was like, okay, it had been a few weeks. They gave me the okay on May 29th. I immediately made my petition online and started pushing it out. But I was like, how am I going to get all these people to sign? And I was like, oh, I should just post on all these Facebook groups. I
Yeah.
joined like every group around the state for all the different towns and cities, like garage sale groups, just different city groups. And then those people shared it. And a lot of people said that they had lost, moms, dads, children, which makes me extremely sad
Right.
that so many people have lost their children and they say that they need more youth services out there. The community Colorado has been extremely supportive and I got almost 4,000 signatures in the end and it took me less than 2 months.
That's so great. And you're right, that just goes to show you that there's a need out there. You're proving there's a need and you're gonna go through with it. Did you design them?
Yeah, we went on Canva and we got together an idea of what we wanted, but the final design we have to, once they validate all our signatures, Colorado Corrections, we will pay them a fee and they will do the actual design, which is hopefully as close to ours as possible.
Mhm. So you've done a lot. I mean, honestly, a lot of people do nothing, which is fine too, because that's all they can do. But you're definitely giving back and you're giving back to a big way, not just in mental health awareness, but almost in prevention by trying to make sure kids have something going for them. And I think that's really great.
Yeah, prevention is where it's at. I feel like there's a lot of nonprofits out there that just share resources and don't really do anything.
You're
Like we
right.
can all get online and Google resources.
Yep.
But kids need prevention. They need programs now. They need people there behind them, with them, like
Yep.
helping improve their mental states.
I completely agree with that. So I think it's great that you're taking and doing something with this because, like you said, a lot of people could have just done nothing. So you have a lot of things. You got the bench, you've got your nonprofit doing the kid thing. Speaking of which, what is the name of your nonprofit?
It's called Suicide Loss Memorial Foundation.
If someone were listening to this today and stumbled across this, if you could say one thing to them regarding your situation and where you've been and where you're at now, is there anything you'd like to tell them?
Um, I would say reach out, even though it's uncomfortable, talk to someone. If you don't think anyone cares, a lot of people care. If you
Mhm.
think you're the only one feeling that way, trust me, we've all felt that way. It's like sometimes when you're going through a hard experience, it's easy to feel like, okay, I'm the only one. This is it's just me. But there's so many other people out there that can empathize and they've felt and they've been where you are.
Right.
And it's
Ultimately, we'd
uncomfortable, but you have to push yourself.
it is, and it is uncomfortable, and you're right, but we'd rather someone be angry at us for pointing something out than the opposite that could be happening. Because ultimately, you don't want someone to make a permanent decision for a temporary problem, right?
Yes, and feelings are temporary. You may feel so strong, and with kids especially, teenagers, oh, they have the strongest emotions, and you feel like life is over,
Yep.
but it is not. Those emotions pass. The next day is going to be better. I remember feeling like I thought life sucked and it would just never get better.
Yeah.
But I love my life now. It's hard, but I love that I was able to have three miracle babies. They've sucked the life out of me, but I I love them so much and I feel like my purpose in life was to be a mother. I think the one thing that I have in common with my dad is I'm a listener. I love to meet people. I love to ask them questions. I love to get to know them. If I could get paid to just sit there and listen to different people all day long, I would love it. That would be my dream come true
Wow.
because I just love hearing about people's life stories. And I genuinely care about who you are and what you've been through. And just like my dad. And I hope that when we get this up and running, that that can be something that kids that I meet take away. Because a lot of people don't feel like they're heard. They don't feel like people listen because a lot of people don't listen. They may look at you, but what you're saying doesn't register in their brains.
Right. Just sometimes just a little validation to know that you're not alone is
Yeah.
all that you need to get you through that moment and be like, okay, well, I'm not the only one that thinks things suck. It sucks for other people too, and we can do this.
Yeah, definitely.
Nicole, thank you so much for trusting me with your dad's story and allowing us to meet Claude through you. Not just the man that died, but the man who loved Halloween, hockey, fishing, and of course his family. Um, Before we end this, I just want to say if someone listening remembers only one thing about today, I think it would be if you're struggling to be sure and tell someone. Um, Thank you for listening to another episode of 13 Days of Silence. I'm your host, Terry Lynn. And remember, these stories aren't about the day someone died or the worst day they've ever had. They're about living in the after. The after is tomorrow, it's next week, next month, or 10 years and more. It's when the funeral is over or the phone stops ringing to check in on you. When life continues for everyone else while you're still learning how to carry on a life that has been forever changed. Yes, life does go on. The after is learning how to go on with it. Until next time, thank you for allowing us to share these stories. Take care of yourself and take care of each other, and keep living in the after.